Hey friends, today I want to talk a little bit about meaning, and specifically the subjectivity of meaning. To kick off this discussion, I want to invite a very special guest from a very special location to introduce the topic. So take it away, Aaron.
So let's talk about meaning for a second. Take a look at what's behind me. Some people give the Grand Canyon different meaning. Some people say that it was put there by God or an intelligent designer. Some people might say it's just a bunch of rocks, it doesn't mean anything. Other people might say it's what happens when time and geology and physics and erosion and everything does their thing. You get something like the Grand Canyon. What does it mean to you? We have power in our life to choose the meaning we give to things. And so maybe as you being the person who is experiencing what you're experiencing in your life, you get to decide the meaning you want to give to things. So, if you were standing here and looking at this vast expanse, what meaning would you give this? With each moment in our life, with each event, with each thing that we experience, we get to choose the meaning that we give to that thing. It's not objective. No one says that's what this has to mean to you. You have a great deal of power in deciding the meaning you want to give to something, what you want to imbue that object, that relationship, that experience, that moment in time. Nobody else decides that for you. And in that, you have all of the power to intentionally shape and create the meaning you give to things in your life.
So we as human beings are taking in all of this data, all of this stimulus, the experiences that we have, the things that we observe, and we're imbuing all of those things, all of those data points with meaning. We are creating a narrative, we're creating stories, we're giving meaning to all the data that we're receiving. And it can be really powerful to raise your awareness of the stories that you tend to create, the meaning that you tend to give to the data that you're receiving. From that data, we create lessons, we create beliefs, we create our identity. As human beings, we're like shaping a picture of the world around us. And the meaning that we choose to give to all the data that we're receiving is where we start crafting the experience of what it's like to be us and what is the world that we're living in. And so here's where there's so much power as a human being. Whatever you believe about your universe, about your world, about your reality, you are right. You are correct. That's the experience that you have in the universe that you're living in. So, if you believe the universe has your back, you're right. If you believe the universe doesn't care about you at all, you're right. If you believe things generally don't go your way, you're right. If you believe something was meant to be, or it wasn't meant to be, you're right. We get to create the rules of our reality, the rules of our world. And that's where you have all the power. When you can raise your consciousness, you can become more aware of what are the rules of the world that you're living by, that you have decided are rules of that world based on the data that you've received. What are the beliefs that you hold about the way your world operates? Then you can take a look at, are some of those beliefs, lessons, rules serving you? Or are there some that maybe don't serve you so well? This idea of the subjectivity of meaning, right? There's no objective meaning to things, where you get to shape the meaning you give to things. That also tends to be where our inner critic, or our inner gremlin, or our inner saboteur, whatever term you want to use for that voice in your head that is maybe not so nice to you all the time. This gray area is a playground for your inner critic. It is like a smorgasbord of delights, really, because it gets to interpret the data that you're receiving in ways that serve what it wants you to believe about yourself, about what's possible, about the world you live in. So take, for example, social media, right? We all love social media and or hate it, and both, right? Say you post something to social media and you don't get any responses. Nobody clicks on it, nobody likes it, you don't get any comments. That's a data point. All you know is that you didn't get much interaction from that post. What do we often interpret from that data that we get? Well, nobody likes me, my post wasn't interesting, my friends aren't interested in what I'm doing, right? That's what your inner critic might easily want you to believe. That may be a default channel in your brain, a neuron that's used to firing that way, right? A belief that gets reinforced by that data point. We call that confirmation bias, right? If you already have a belief that like, oh, maybe I don't post interesting things to social media, or my friends don't really like me as much as I want them to, or something like that, that data point confirms that bias. It confirms that limiting belief that your inner critic wants you to believe to be true. It could also just as equally be true that no one happened to see it, or that Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever it was throttled that post and maybe didn't show it to that many people, because in the case of like a Facebook business page, maybe it wanted you to pay for that post to get more exposure for it. Maybe it had nothing to do with how much people like you or how interesting your post was or whatever, right? But we get to choose a story that we start believing to be true about that experience. Take another example, a job application, right? Say you apply for a job, you do a lot of prep work for it, you got your cover letter together, you got your resume together, you apply for your job and you don't get that job. That's a data point. All you know is you didn't get the opportunity you applied for. Well, what's the meaning we then choose to give to that experience? There's any number of meanings that you could choose from. Your inner critic may want you to believe, oh, it's because you're not qualified, you're not a good worker, right? You didn't deserve that opportunity. Of course it worked out that way, right? Things don't work out for me. I should just go, and hide in a box and never apply for a job ever again, right? Your inner critic is telling you what that data point meant. There's a universe of other interpretations of why that data point went the way it did. Maybe you weren't quite the right fit for this job, but maybe they want to keep you in mind for other jobs. Maybe your resume got lost in the mail. Maybe there was a server glitch and your email with your resume got erased. Maybe the person has a prejudice against your name. Like whatever, you have no idea what could have caused that data point. And so when you notice yourself giving meaning to things that don't serve you, the meaning you choose, the story, the narrative you're telling yourself about that data point, if that isn't serving you, choose another one. You're in charge. Right? Like Aaron said at the Grand Canyon, like I said at the Grand Canyon, you're in charge of the stories, the meaning you give to the data that you're seeing, the event, the relationship, the conversation. You're in charge of the interpretation you make around that. So I really invite you to just start paying attention to the meaning that you choose to give to things. In time, when we keep practicing giving certain kinds of meaning to certain things, we start creating beliefs. We start extrapolating lessons and learnings from those kinds of data points. And that starts shaping how we view our world, the world that we're experiencing, and then the choices that we make. If you felt rejected by not getting that job that you applied for, you can extrapolate meaning, oh, I'm not worthy of those kinds of jobs. I should go and hide in a corner. I should not apply for those kinds of jobs. But what if that wasn't actually true? What if you just weren't the right fit for that one, or they had already filled the position with somebody's cousin or something like that? Now you have started living a reality based on the belief you've created based on that data point that may not actually be true. So when we start getting into patterns of choosing certain meanings that we tend to give certain things, we start shaping our reality. We start shaping the lessons of the world that we're in, the rules of the world that we're living in. And that's where it can be really powerful to say, hey, wait a minute, that rule isn't serving me. Where did I learn that this rule was true? This belief about myself, or this belief about the way things tend to go for me. You are ultimately in charge of taking a look at, deconstructing, examining, exploring what are the beliefs that you are living in, the meanings that you give to things. And do you want to start practicing new ways of imbuing certain kinds of experiences with meaning? And when you start doing that, then you can literally start shaping the world you live in, the rules of your universe, the beliefs that you have about the way your world works and who you are in that world. We call that raising our consciousness or raising our awareness of all of these subjective things that we start believing as hard facts. The rules of my world, the reality that I'm living in, that's not changeable. I can't change that. Yes, you can. You have been the one giving meaning to all the experiences that you're having. And yeah, maybe we start off as children being told what certain things mean, right? We're told that by our parents, by our teachers, by our peers, by our siblings, by religion, by the media, by TV. This means that, and this means this, right? And so we all sort of start agreeing on what are the rules of this world. But then you are the one experiencing that world for yourself. And as you grow older, we may still be living our life by some of those rules, by some of those default perspectives, taking those meanings for granted as just rote, right? They're written into the code of the universe that I'm experiencing. Well, guess what? They don't have to be. You can choose to interpret data in different ways so that you start shaping the reality that you're living in. It sounds trippy. It sounds like science fiction. It's not. It's just part of being a human being and being a conscious human being. In a way, you're kind of living in the Matrix. Right? If you know that movie, The Matrix, Keanu Reeves realizes he's living in the Matrix, right? That there's other people creating the rules of the simulation that he's been living in. Spoiler, sorry if you haven't seen it by now. And so we've been creating our own Matrix. We've been creating our own simulation, our own world that we've been living in. And you actually have the superpower. You're the one, you're the chosen one, like Neo, to start making changes to that world. It sounds trippy, but it's actually just a choice. It's what happens when you raise your consciousness about some of these things. When you raise your awareness and start practicing, noticing the default meaning you tend to give to certain stimulus, to certain data points, to certain experiences, relationships, conversations, events, moments. You are really in charge then of deciding what those things mean. And when we can step back from judgment, when we can step back from some of the default code that we may have been taught or that we are running in our computer program, literally our human program, our coding, then you start being in charge of shaping the meaning you give to things. And that is so powerful. So I want to reinforce for you that whatever you believe about the things that you observe and experience in your world, you're right. And to question some of those beliefs. Question those beliefs. Question the meaning you tend to give to things. Because some of them may not be serving you, and you're now living your life according to rules and beliefs that may not be serving you at all. So when you question them and you start paying attention to them, that gives you an opportunity to make some adjustments if you choose to. You can start saying, oh, that doesn't have to mean that I'm not good enough for this job that I didn't get. Maybe it just means I'm not the right fit, or they didn't see my application, or they got hundreds and hundreds of applications. Oh, okay, maybe that just means I want to make an adjustment to the next job that I apply for, or whatever it may be. Anything that keeps you in charge of shaping your reality, shaping the experience that you have and the world that you live in is a good thing, is a powerful thing. So I just want to invite you to consider that so that you can step into even more power in shaping your life. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like or drop a comment down below. If you think someone else might enjoy it, feel free to share it with them. I invite you to subscribe to my channel and be sure to hit that bell so that you get notified when I post new videos. And if you're interested in exploring more about the subjectivity of meaning in your life, please drop me a line. This is what I do as a coach. We take a look at the rules that you are currently living by that may not be serving you. Because ultimately, you are in charge of the experiences that you have based on the meaning you are choosing to give to things. Anyway, thanks so much, friends. Have a great day.
Just look at this. What does it mean? What does it mean?